How many of you like arguing? Oh, come on, this is an apologetics class. Alan's honest, the rest of you are liars. Let me ask this another way. When you argue, you want to win. How about it that way? Yeah. If your hand's not up, you need counseling. Something is wrong with you. We are going to talk about arguing tonight and tomorrow in the time that I get with you. And we're going to talk about arguing because of where our culture is. Right now, the United States is having a huge argument over two key questions that will impact you. They will impact your grandchildren, for those of you that have them, and those of you that don't. When you get them, this debate's going to impact them. It impacts the people you live with and work with. Here are the two questions we're arguing about. Number one, we're arguing about the question, is truth true? In other words, when it comes to moral truth, is it something that's real and knowable, or is it just a preference like choosing, as Greg Kokel says, chocolate ice cream over vanilla? Is truth true? The second thing we're arguing about is the question of human value. What is it that makes you and I valuable? Are we valuable for what we are intrinsically, by nature, or are we only valuable for what we do functionally? Those two questions, the question of truth and the question of human value, are driving the national debates over cloning, driving the national debates over abortion, and over embryonic stem cell research, to name just a few. Now, some of you have already started to take notes, fast and furious. You are welcome to do that if you want to. However, here's your way out. I have, over here on the table, a book, which I will sell you at triple the sticker price. No, that I will be glad to give to you for $10, and you may have that, and it will cover most of what I'm saying here today. However, because I was added a little bit late to this lecture series, we did not have time to assign my book, so here's what I did. I went ahead and compiled about a 60-page document that I have on a PDF file that is posted on our website, where everything I'm going to say is in those notes. And I do mean everything. For example, in our third session tonight, we are going to get into some material that gets very, very deep. We're going to look at a couple of thinkers, one, David Boonin. We're going to look at Peter Singer. We're going to take a look at Steven Pinker. These are people arguing against the pro-life view, and they're doing it at a very sophisticated, I would actually say confusing level. And one of the things you're going to find out is that our worldview has tremendous explanatory power compared to what they're offering. Yeah. And you're going to sit here tonight, and about 9 o'clock, when I start diving into Steven Pinker, and Michael Tooley, and Peter Singer, your eyes are going to be glazing over. And I want you at that moment to remember two things. The fact that you're having trouble following their arguments is a sign that there's something wrong with those arguments. Secondly, everything's been written out, so do not waste a minute's strength trying to keep up with your notes if you don't want to. Just listen and then go to the notes. It's all there for you. I will tell you where to get those notes in a little while, lest some of you be tempted to blow out of class here tonight and go home and watch the Dodgers, which is a complete waste of time this year. Don't even bother. I used to live here in Los Angeles, moved in '04. People have asked me, why did you move out of LA? I'll just tell you why we moved out of LA. It wasn't the high taxes. It wasn't the politics. It wasn't the fact there were 2 homicides near our house within a 9-month period. It wasn't the terrible public schools, but men and women when the Los Angeles Lakers traded Shaquille O'Neal to the Miami Heat. I'm sorry, that was it. I was gone. So here we are in Atlanta now, but it's good to be back. And we are going to spend our time talking about those two fundamental questions. Is truth true? And what makes human beings valuable? And to give you an example of what I'm talking about, this is a book entitled Practical Ethics by a gentleman by the name of Peter Singer. I will refer to him more than once in my time with you. Dr. Peter Singer teaches at Princeton University, prestigious Ivy League school. He argues in this book, Practical Ethics, that no newborn should be considered a person until 30 days after birth, and disabled infants can be killed on the spot if it suits the preference and interests of the parents. He goes on to argue in subsequent op-ed pieces that if you disagree with his thesis that killing newborns is permissible, you're just letting your outdated religious faith get in the way of clear rational thinking. And Dr. Singer is not the only one to propose such radical ideas to our ears. These are things that are now being proposed in academies around the world, and as Christian ambassadors, we're going to have to know how to engage these people in this way. I mentioned a moment ago as well that we're dealing with the truth issue. I don't know how many of you listened to Nick Cannon. Probably not a lot of you. Nick Cannon, if you don't know who he is, he's a rap singer. He's married to Mariah Carey, thank you. Okay, yeah, there we go. We get the people who are, you know, keep that iPod off during this class, all right? We have Nick Cannon, who 7 years ago wrote a song entitled Can I Live? And it's an interesting song because in the song he's having an imaginary dialogue with his mother as if he were in the womb. And what makes this interesting is Nick Cannon, when his mother was 17 years old and pregnant with Nick, was ready to abort him, and at the last possible moment changed her mind. And reflecting on that, Nick wrote this song, and there's a line in the song that got him in trouble. Here's the line. Mom, I hope you'll make the right decision and not go through with the knife incision. And when he penned those words, Mom, I hope you'll make the right decision, there were people who got angry. And here's what they said. How dare you judge women? How dare you claim to know what is right? Have you walked in the shoes of a 17-year-old girl who's pregnant? If not, what right do you have to say what's right for her? They weren't challenging his factual claims about the nature of abortion. They were upset that he claimed to be right in the first place. That's what I mean when I say we're having this debate over the nature of moral knowledge. Is it real and knowable, or just a mere subjective preference, like choosing vanilla over chocolate? We see this even at the personal level. I've mentioned before an experience that happened with me several years ago with my youngest son, Michael, who is going to turn 14 in just a few days here, but when he was between the ages of 4 and 6, he loved to go to the park and he loved to be on the swing. And if you got the swing going, he would be a very happy camper. You could text people as long as you kept that swing moving. Well, one day at the park, a very well-dressed woman put her daughter in the swing next to Michael, and as I was pushing Michael on the swing, she turned to me and said, well, this is interesting. I never see men at the park in the middle of the day. How did you get here? And what do you do for a living? She looked like maybe she was a court reporter or something. Had her kid, you know, there in the swing, dressed as if she had just stepped out of business school. I said, well, I do lectures on bioethics, and that's usually a very safe response because no one ever asked me what that is. And she said, oh, do you talk about things like abortion? Yeah, that's what I talk about. And then she said something that I'll bet most of you have heard. She said, well, I don't like abortion. What was the key word there? Like. I don't like abortion. I think it's bad. What was the next word? But I'm glad it's legal because I don't think I should impose my views on others. Very graciously, I asked a question that we train everybody to ask when you hear this. Tell me why you're personally opposed to abortion. Because that's what she was arguing, wasn't it? She said, well, I oppose it because everybody knows it kills a baby. No hesitation on her part at all to say that. Very graciously, I followed up with this. I said, if I hear you correctly, you personally oppose abortion because you say it kills a baby, but you think it should be legal to kill babies. And there was stunned silence while she pushed her daughter on the swing. And to her credit, she turned to me and said, you know what? I've never thought of it that way, but you're right. I am saying that, and it doesn't sound good when you take the spin off it. You see, she bought into this notion that when it comes to moral truth, you can no more claim your position is right on this issue of abortion than you would claim you're right about your favorite flavor of ice cream. And here's what we're going to look at. How do we, as pro-life apologists, make a case for life in a culture that thinks moral truth is subjective like that? How are we going to make that case? And I'm going to suggest to you that there's 4 essential tasks that we've got to take on if we're going to make this debate something that brings God glory, brings kingdom truth to our culture, and helps us save an awful lot of lives in the process. Here are the 4 things we got to do, 4 essential tasks, and I'll spend my time with you talking about these 4. The first is we've got to clarify the debate. We have got to make sure people understand exactly what the issue is. The second thing we've got to do, we've got to establish a foundation for the debate. It is no longer enough to simply say to people, well, here's my standard pro-life pitch, and think they're going to buy it. You would be shocked at some of the challenges you get to foundational beliefs. I'm about ready to pull Megan up here. I won't do it. Megan Allman is right here. She's on my staff at Life Training Institute, and she's a student here in the master's program in apologetics. She just spent the day talking to 1,200 Catholic high school students out in the San Fernando Valley. They told her she'd have 200. She got there, she had 12. And I just got a little snippet of a report, and guess what some of these students were challenging her on? Foundational stuff, which means the skepticism that's out there is something we're going to have to address. And we'll spend a little time talking about that in the time that I have with you. Third thing we've got to do, we not only got to clarify the debate, we not only have to provide a foundation for it, we've also got to answer objections persuasively. It grieves me to listen to some pro-life leaders respond defensively to critics. And we're going to talk about how you can level the playing field and how you don't have to be on the hot seat. And then the fourth thing we have to do is we've got to teach and equip. There are evangelical churches all over America who spend time, maybe 5 minutes a year, engaging in a little practice ritual known as Sanctity of Human Life Sunday, where for 5 minutes a year, the local crisis pregnancy center director gets up, says a few words about her work, and that's it. We're done with the pro-life issue for the year. And meanwhile, we have believers in our churches that couldn't defend the pro-life view in a secular arena if called upon to do it. And part of the problem is we've got this notion that if we just preach what the Bible says about human value, we've done our job. I would be quite happy if we did that much. But we've got to go beyond that and actually equip people to engage the people they work with. Those are the 4 things we got to do. Let's talk about clarifying the debate. We've been fed a big lie. Here's the lie. The abortion issue is complex. Actually, it's not complex. It's very simple. It comes down to just one question. And that question is, what is the unborn? One question clarifies this. Now, is abortion complex psychologically? Yes, it is. And what I mean by that is when you see a 14-year-old girl who's pregnant and she's looking at her parents rejecting her, she's looking at her boyfriend dumping her, she's looking at the fact that she can't go to school, can't get the education, can't get the job she wants because she's going to have this child, do you feel sympathy for her? Of course you do, and you should. But does it follow that because we feel sympathy for her, there's no correct way to proceed morally? And the moral permissibility of abortion comes down to the issue, what is the unborn? I mentioned my friend Greg Kokel a moment ago. Let me use an illustration he uses to demonstrate how we're talking about one question, not many. Greg says, imagine that you're in the kitchen one night. In fact, for those of you that aren't married, jump into the future 10 years and imagine that you are married to the man or woman of your dreams and you now have a 5-year-old boy and you're standing at the kitchen sink one day washing dishes and that 5-year-old comes in behind you with your back turned and says to you, Mommy or Daddy, can I kill this? If you don't think that's possible, I have words for you. I've been married to the most glorious woman in all of Christendom for 25 years. We have a son 20. We have a son 19. We have a son 14 and a daughter 9. I have personally heard the question, Daddy, can I kill this, numerous times, and he's usually got his brother by the throat when he's asking the question. Daddy, can I kill this? What's the first question out of your mouth at that point?
What do you want to kill?
What do you got? Exactly. Cockroach, snail, have fun, don't show mom. Neighbor kitty, whoa. And of course, brother by the neck, you have issues. But you would never in a million years say, sure, son, have at it, till you answered the predicate question, what has he got? You got to answer the question, what is the unborn, before you answer the question, can I kill the unborn? I wouldn't think many people would say, if we were talking about killing toddlers, that we don't need to answer the question, what is the toddler, before we talk about a right to privacy that would entail a right to kill them. But you see, people use arguments like privacy and choice and trusting women, as we'll show you in a moment, to justify abortion, and here's why they do it. They are simply assuming ahead of time that the unborn are not human. They have not argued for this, mind you. They are simply assuming it. Have you ever been, well, let me put it to you this way. Have you stopped beating your brother yet?
Go ahead and tell him.
You,
Might as well just be
I
honest.
never have.
that's not what I asked you. Have you stopped beating him? No? Are you going to stop? We'll pray for you. Now, is this a fair question?
No.
Why is it not fair? Because what?
You're assuming that
I'm assuming that he beats his brother, and the point of my question was designed to do what? Prove that he beats his brother, right? It's totally unfair. It's called begging the question, where you assume what you're trying to prove, as Frank Beckwith points out. Most of what goes on at the street level for a defense for abortion rights involves assuming the unborn are not human. They're not proving it, they're simply assuming it. And when you use this little example of trot out the toddler, or excuse me, of Daddy, can I kill this? You're bringing the issue back to the question, what is the unborn? Can we kill the unborn? My answer is yes, we can, if what? If the unborn are not human beings. If morally speaking, abortion is nothing more than clipping a fingernail, pulling a tooth, have as many as you want, I don't care. But if it's about taking the life of a defenseless human being without justification, that's another matter altogether. You've got to answer the question, what is the unborn, before you answer the question, can I kill the unborn? I do debates on abortion, and one of the people I debate is a woman by the name of Nadine Strawson, who was the president of the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, for about 17 years until she retired in fall of 2008. You've seen Nadine on television defending all kinds of interesting things, and the first time that she and I debated, she had just concluded a debate with Supreme Court Justice Antoine Scalia. So she and I were going to debate 2 weeks later, or maybe, no, I'm sorry, about 3 or 4 weeks later at Grand Valley State University in Michigan. And we have since debated 4 times since then, and we're going to do some more. In fact, we're planning one right now for Biola, where we're going to do a debate here at Biola, the two of us. She's a friend of mine, and I like Nadine because she's not nasty. I don't agree with her on the issue, but she's a pleasant person, and we get along, and I appreciate the fact that she is civil on the issue in ways that other people I've debated are not. And when we debated last at the University of North Carolina, Nadine opened the debate with her 20-minute speech. That's how we do these things, 20 minutes opening, and then something like a 10-minute rebuttal, cross-examination, concluding statements, Q&A from the audience, something like that is the typical format. I'm going to paraphrase for you what she argued. Now, keep in mind, this is not a word-for-word dictation. It's just the gist of what she argued. Here's the gist of what she argued. Point 1, abortion is a fundamental religious liberty issue that the state should not infringe upon. Point 2, we should trust women to make their own personal decisions. We should trust them and grant them the liberty they need to make decisions according to their own sense of right and wrong. Point 3, even late-term abortions that pro-lifers find problematic need to be legally and morally permitted. Point 4, a case can be made that we need equality in the culture, and that would include things like tax-funded contraceptive programs, abortions that are paid for by the state, in order that we can have both a reduction in abortion and equality for women in general. That is in essence what she argued. I replied as follows. I said, men and women, I agree with everything my friend Nadine just said. She is absolutely right that abortion should remain legal through all 9 months of pregnancy. She's absolutely right we should trust women to make their own personal decisions. She's absolutely right that there should be no laws even against partial birth abortion. She's absolutely right that this is a fundamental liberty issue. I agree with her completely. And by then all the right to lifers in that audience had passed out, as you might imagine. If what? If the unborn are not human beings. And if my friend Nadine can demonstrate tonight using science to show us that the unborn are not members of the human family, and philosophy to show us that even if they are, we have no duty to value them, I will concede this debate because I'm more committed to truth than I am ideology. In fact, I told that audience, I'm vigorously pro-choice on women choosing their own husbands, choosing their own worldview, choosing their own religion, choosing the people they wish to marry, choosing the cars they wish to own, the clothes they wish to purchase, the careers they wish to pursue, the pets they want to own. I'm pro-choice on all those questions. But some choices are wrong, like taking the lives of defenseless human beings simply because they're in the way of something we want. That's a choice a civil society should not allow. However, if Nadine can demonstrate the unborn aren't human, I will concede because I'm more committed to truth than I am ideology. And after I laid out my own scientific case and philosophic case, as I'll do here in a little while, I reiterated, if she can show us the unborn aren't human, I will concede this debate. Do you think my friend Nadine stepped up to demonstrate that the unborn were not human? Here is what she said. She said three things essentially. First off, Scott's question is totally irrelevant to this debate. And the reason it's irrelevant is we don't know when life begins. Nobody knows when life begins. People disagree on when life begins. And most importantly, she said, religious groups disagree on when life begins. And she pulled out a statement from the YWCA, Young Women's Christians Association, where she read from the YWCA as an authoritative source to demonstrate that no one can know if the unborn are human. Now, there were, of course, some real problems with Nadine's comment, and I'm going to just tell you what they were. Number one, if you want to know what kind of thing the unborn is, do you go to religion to get your answer? No, where do you go? The science of embryology, as we'll talk about in a little bit. Second problem, notice what she said. Nobody agrees on when life begins, as if somehow the absence of consensus means there's no truth. And then here's the biggest issue. She said, we don't know if the unborn are human. If that's true, men and women, should we be killing the unborn? If you're driving home tonight from this session and you see in the road ahead of you at 1 o'clock in the morning when I dismiss you, what looks like, that was a joke, an attempt to bond with my audience that just went down in flames, so we'll move right along. I'm on East Coast time and I'm more awake than some of you. My body will be telling me it's 1 in the morning when I quit tonight. You're driving home and you see what looks in front of you like an old coat in the road. And you don't know if it's an old coat or an old man who had a little bit too much to drink at the local pub. Are you going to run it over? No, you'll err on the side of caution. Or as Ronald Reagan once famously said, if you're out hunting and you see bushes rustling in front of you and you don't know if that's your best friend in there or the deer that you're after, are you going to open fire? Not unless you're Dick Cheney, right? You're going to err on the side of caution and you're going to not shoot. Well, she did not answer the question, what is the unborn? And it is my contention that that put her side on the defensive for the evening, because it raised all kinds of questions. If abortion doesn't take the life of a human being, why do you want to reduce the numbers of abortion? If it's no big deal morally, why do we care how many there are? Yeah. And she did not deal with that question, and it caused her problems through the course of this debate. I want to give you a tactic that we use called Trot Out the Toddler that will help you when you're in conversations with people on the pro-life issue. And again, all of this is in your notes, so you're welcome to take notes if you want to, but you don't have to. I want to give you this tactic that will help you clarify the debate. It helps you bring clarity where people want to simply assume the unborn aren't human, where they're begging the question. And this tactic, Trot Out the Toddler, that I've coined it, helps you bring clarity. And here's what I want you to begin to do. Anytime you hear an argument for elective abortion, I want you instinctively, before you do anything else, do not start thinking about how am I going to refute this person. What I want you to do instinctively is ask yourself, would this work as a good argument for killing a toddler? If the answer is no, what is the person assuming about the unborn that they're not assuming about the toddler? It's not human, correct? They're assuming this. They haven't argued for it, they're assuming it. Here's how Trot Out the Toddler works. Somebody makes a case for elective abortion by asserting, for example, something like the following. Well, you know, women have a right to privacy. Well, I agree, they do. Privacy is a good thing when you're getting ready in the morning. But does privacy sound like a good argument that would justify killing a toddler as long as we do it in the privacy of the home? Well, never in a million years, right? So what are they assuming about the unborn? They're assuming the unborn aren't human like that toddler. So you're going to trot out a toddler to help them see the assumption they're making. Very graciously, very nicely, you're going to say something like the following. Hold out your hand at about waist level and say, I have a 2-year-old in front of me. His parents would like the right to kill him in the privacy of the bedroom. Should they be allowed to do it? What will the answer be? No, you can't do that. Your reply, 2 words. Why not? Well, because he's a human being. Your reply, 1 word. Ah. You should get that ah down. It's helpful. Ah. If the unborn are human like that toddler, should we be killing the unborn in the name of privacy any more than we would a toddler? Oh, well, that's different. The unborn aren't human. The toddler is. Ah, that's the issue. Are they both human? You got to answer the question, what is the unborn, before you can answer the question, can I kill the unborn? And what this little example does is bring it back to the question, what kind of thing is the unborn? So let's try another one, and maybe you can help me out with this if you want to. Let's assume someone comes and says to us, hey, you write to lifers, you just don't trust women to make their own personal decisions. Why don't you respect and trust women to make their own moral choices without the state and the church interfering with their private lives? Yeah, you've heard this kind of thing before, haven't you? Don't panic. Don't start saying, well, I'm not trying to impose my views. Don't even go there. Trot out your toddler. I have a 2-year-old in front of me. His mother thinks she should have the choice to do whatever she wants with him without us interfering, and we should trust her to make that decision regardless of how she chooses to treat the toddler. Should we let her do that? The answer will be what? No, you can't do that. Your reply?
Why not?
Why not? Well, because he's a human being. Your reply? Ah. Oh, that was good. We got the Biola choir here. What? Not aha. What? If the unborn are human like that toddler, should we be killing the unborn in the name of trusting women any more than we would a toddler? Oh, but that's different. The unborn aren't human, the toddler is. Ah, that's the issue. Are they the same? Are they both human? You got to answer the question, what is the unborn, before you answer the question, can I kill the unborn? Let's try a few more here. Someone comes to us and says, well, what about poor women that can't afford another child? These women do not have the ability to pay for the things that they need. Now you're going to force them to bring another child into this world that they can't feed. How on earth do you justify that as a right-to-life person? Okay? Now, typically, what do you think most pro-lifers are going to do at that point? Oh, well, we'll take care of those children. All right, we should if we're able, but that's not the issue right now. What's the issue? What is the unborn? So trot out your toddler. I have a 2-year-old in front of me. His parents cannot afford to feed him. And in order to make the checkbook balance at the end of the month, they'd like to execute the 2-year-old so they have more money to feed the 5-year-old. Should they be allowed to do it? What will the answer be? No, you can't do that. Your reply? Why not? Well, because he's a human being. What? If the unborn are human, like that toddler, should we be killing the unborn in the name of economic hardship any more than we'd kill a toddler for that reason? I mean, seriously, when human beings get expensive, can we kill them? Obviously, the person is assuming the unborn is not a human being, but that's the question they've got to answer. They can't just assume it. All right, I need someone willing to volunteer to role play with me. I'm going to be the critic of the pro-life view, and you are going to be the pro-lifer. Who would like to be the volunteer who would like to role play this with me? There has to be a brave soul here. You, sir, just earned yourself a free copy of my book, The Case for Life for Being Bold. Tell us your name.
My name is Kedron.
This is Kedron. Let's give it up for Kedron, all right? Hey, I like this. All right, Kedron, I have a question for you. Don't you understand that right now there are so many abused, abandoned, and unwanted children that are being maltreated? They're being thrown away. And you're going to force women to bring children into the world they don't want, which is going to create more child abuse. How do you justify calling yourself pro-life when your position is anything but pro-life? You're pro-child abuse is what you are. Now, before you start saying, no, I'm not, your first words out of your mouth need to be, I have a 2-year-old in front of me. Do not get defensive. The first words out of your mouth, I got a 2-year-old, all right? Take it.
I have a 2-year-old in front of me, and I have a 2-year-old in front of me, and the parents of this 2-year-old feel like the 2-year-old is just unwanted.
You're doing great.
2-year-old is unwanted, and so do you feel like you think that the parents are justified in killing the 2-year-old if simply because it's unwanted?
Okay, did he do good? He's doing great. In other words, should we kill 2-year-olds to prevent 5-year-olds from being abused? Great question. Well, of course not, because that 2-year-old's a human being. Yeah.
That is the question. Are the 2-year-old, is the unborn, and like the 2-year-old, human? Or
Give it up, man. That's good. I'll sign it in the break. Now notice what he did. He did not get defensive. He brought the issue back to the question, what is the unborn? He clarified what the real issue is. How many times have we been watching TV and the pro-lifer is on the defensive because the issue is not clarified? And that allows the other side to control the rhetorical energy of the conversation. And that is not how we defend the pro-life view. We clarify it. Let's try a couple of more. Somebody comes to us and says, you've got to respect individual conscience. You've got to respect people's individual sense of what's right and wrong. Now, to a degree, that's true. I really don't have any interest in controlling what you do in terms of who you marry, and, well, I do need to take that back. Yes, I do. I didn't used to have to say that, but now I have to say it because there are people who would like to marry all kinds of things other than members of the opposite sex. But you shouldn't have the law telling you which member of the opposite sex you can marry, for example. I have no interest in how you control the cleanliness of your own home. I don't care if your car is a rolling tenement on wheels. But killing other human beings is something that I'm not going to just respect your own personal decisions on, especially if you want to harm someone else. So when someone says we need to respect women to make their own individual choices, they're assuming the unborn aren't human. What's the first words out of your mouth? I have a 2-year-old here. Exactly right. And walk them through that. Same thing is true. Think about all the things that assume the unborn aren't human. Oh, what about handicapped and disabled children? What does that assume about the unborn? That they're not human, right? Because would this person say we can kill a 4-year-old who's disabled and has Down syndrome? Probably not. So what are they assuming about the fetus? It's not a human being. Overpopulation. We got too many people in the world. We're all going to starve. We had people like Paul Ehrlich, who in 1970 predicted that the whole world would be extinct by 1980 if we did not drastically reduce population. He's made that claim 2 or 3 times. I mean, he's worse than the Watchtower in terms of predictions. But yet, he gets away with it, and one of the reasons he gets away with it is that he is assuming the unborn aren't human when he says we need to encourage abortion. We need to encourage forced sterilization. This idea of assuming that a class of human beings are not human really came out in a book that I like called Natural Rights and the Right to Choose by Hadley Arkes, who's a philosopher at Amherst College. But in his book, he cites an example from the adventures of Huckleberry Finn, where Huckleberry Finn has been away, and he has been late getting back to Aunt Sally's house, and he's in trouble. And he's trying to come up with a story that he can concoct that she will buy to explain why he's late. And I'm going to read you the dialogue here and see if you see the example of assuming the exact thing we're talking about here. Only in this case, it's not assuming that the unborn aren't human. It's assuming that black men are not human. Listen, and I'm going to read directly from the book. There is a word that I'm going to use in here that is not my own choice. I'm just reading what the book says, okay? Here's the dialogue. Again, Huck is explaining to Aunt Sally why he is late. We blowed out a cylinder head. Good gracious, said Aunt Sally. Anybody hurt? No, ma'am, killed a nigger. Well, that's lucky because sometimes people do get hurt. Whoa. What was just assumed about the black man? He's not a human being like us. And yet, that's exactly what's going on when people assume the unborn aren't human. They don't argue for it, they just assume it. And that's what we see right here. How many of you brought that handout I mentioned last night that you need to bring, that I asked for you to bring? Any of you don't have one? Anybody? Yeah, go ahead. Thanks. I'm passing out a handout for those of you that have it. Just hold on to it for a moment. All right. Here's what I'd like you to do. Don't start reading just yet. This editorial appeared in a scientific journal as an op-ed piece. It is an attempt to justify embryonic stem cell research where we take a human embryo, we kill it to extract its stem cells so that we can treat disease in other people. What I want you to do is take a moment to read it on your own and then turn, as you did last night, to a couple of people around you, and I want you to start pointing out all the places where they assume the unborn are not human. Everybody clear on that? Go ahead, go for it. Let's go ahead and come back this way. All right, start filling me in. What did you find? Give me some examples where the authors simply assume the embryos in question are not human. What were some things you circled or noted?
In the beginning,
One of the last sentences of the first paragraph says, portraying the stem cell debate as the abortion controversy is at best intellectually misleading. It's like they don't know what the whole debate is about in the first place. They don't have a foundation.
Yeah, they're not even getting the real moral issue, right?
The ethical issues involved with this research, however, are far too complex to reduce to such a simple assessment. If they were human, it would be simple.
Yeah. So they're making it complex, which if you didn't start by assuming the unborn weren't human, it would be pretty clear. Yeah, okay, very good, very good. What else?
In the second paragraph, second sentence, stem cell research is morally significant, first because it promises healing. When, sure, it heals the patient, yet it destroys the life of the other, which they don't acknowledge the other side to it at all.
Beautiful.
Because it's not.
Yeah, exactly right. They say this research promises healing. Question, healing to whom? Does it heal the embryos that are going to be destroyed? You're exactly right. Others? Yes?
In paragraph 2, they talk about a theological mandate.
Mm-hmm.
I had to ask the question, where did that come from?
Where did that mandate come from? Sure. Well, I think they try to give an answer. They say we have a duty to love my neighbor. I have a duty to love my neighbor. What are they assuming, though, when they use that to justify killing the embryo? The embryo isn't my neighbor. Yeah. Others? Other examples you flagged? Megan put it real well. You could just about circle the whole editorial here.
Yeah.
It's that bad. It really is. What else?
Well, when he plainly put potential or intended,
Yeah.
potential human beings or intended future destiny.
Yeah. How about this statement? Those who follow Jesus of Nazareth, yeah, you know which one I'm talking about? He goes on to say, the Christian doctrine of salvation includes healing of body and soul. We human beings emulate God when we engage in our own ministry of healing. Medical research in its own way contributes to God's healing work on earth. Now, based on what Dr. Rae said last night, we would agree that that is one of the ways that we reverse the effects of the fall. I absolutely agree. But what is the key question that jumps out at us when they use this kind of reasoning to justify destroying the embryo? Yeah. Does this research heal the embryo? Does it help them? Amazing all through this thing. Any others that you noticed?
Sort of, I think the only actual place in this article is in the 5th paragraph about in the middle, where they actually implicitly offer, though, and some sort of evidence that the embryo is not a human.
Yes.
So they suggest that advances in embryology, such as nuclear transfer, have changed our idea of what it means to be a human, and we should, they want to say, sort of catch up with this rapidly advancing science. So.
I'm glad you brought that up. They do make what I will call a rather hit-and-run attempt, okay? Notice this sentence because it is unbelievable what they say here. Let me actually get to that point in the... oh yeah, here we go. They say, the destruction of embryos for this research is not irrelevant to our ethical consideration. We must ask a question, when does life begin? All right, so far so good, right? Then notice what they do in the very next sentence. What do they do? Or better, when does morally relevant personhood begin? They just moved from an objective question, when does life begin, to what? Subjective, oh, well, when does morally relevant personhood begin? Notice they ditch science immediately. They throw it out there as if they're scientific, but then they just ditch it. Boy, do we see this a lot in this kind of debate. People accuse us of being anti-science. These guys run from science faster than a baboon through Loma Linda. I mean, they are out of there. They want nothing to do with science, especially when it doesn't suit their ends. Go ahead. Anybody else? Yeah, that baboon joke was bad, wasn't it?
The second to last paragraph, it talks about what we need to use these surplus embryos that are going to be destroyed anyway. And it's like, well, we've got orphanages full of surplus 2-year-olds that we could harvest for their organs. So, you know, if the problem is a surplus, well...
Yeah. Yeah, these embryos are going to die anyway. By the way, why are they going to die? Because we're going to kill them for research, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. By the way, for those of you that didn't get the baboon joke, 25 years ago, Loma Linda University was doing organ transplants from baboons to human babies. And they were using baboons to kill, and then they take the organs out of the baboon and put them in the humans as kind of an experimental way of trying to treat certain types of diseases and deficiencies. So that's where that joke came from. Loma Linda is known for these kinds of things. I don't think they even do them anymore, but for those of you that are too young to remember that, I keep forgetting at age 50, I can't assume that I'm part of the hip generation anymore. All right, you get the idea though that all through this thing, they're assuming the embryos in question are not human. I love at the end how they throw out the parable of the Good Samaritan, as if that proves their point. Now, the last time I read that parable, the point of the Good Samaritan was to demonstrate that when someone is unjustly beaten and harmed, we have a duty to do what? Help them. Where are the authors in the story of the Good Samaritan? They're the thieves, unless you, of course, assume the embryos aren't human. But again, this whole assumption is just amazing, and it gets to the problem that we have. Any questions on people not making a case for the unborn being non-human, but simply assuming it? Any questions on clarifying the debate? One thing that's great, by the way, about using this tactic, trot out the toddler, have we even argued yet for our view? No. No. We are simply framing the issue. Let me just tell you, as someone who does debates, he or she who frames the issue wins the argument. That's true everywhere but marriage. But, and I've been married to the best woman for 25 years. I'm just telling you, yeah, you're right, dear, I'll repent and things will be fine. Seriously, you frame the debate, you're in good shape. If you don't frame the debate, you're gone. It's over. You will chase rabbit trails ad infinitum. You don't want to do that. You want to clarify what the debate is. It's about one question: what is the unborn? Any questions on that point? Some of you might be thinking, well, what about those who concede the point? They say the unborn are human, but we still have a right to an abortion because a woman has a right to bodily autonomy. We're going to talk about that in detail tomorrow. There are a small number of people who make that argument. But I'm here to tell you that at the street level, 99% of the people you talk to don't make that argument. They simply assume the unborn are not human and argue from there. And your job is to clarify what the debate is. That's your first task. Clarify what the debate is. You also may have to go a step further and clarify for the person the nature of moral reasoning. Tell me the difference between these two statements. Chocolate ice cream is better than vanilla. It is wrong to torture toddlers for fun. What's the difference between those two statements? One's objective, one's subjective. Okay, what else? Moral or just preference, right? The problem is so many people today don't know the difference between those two types of claims. They think, as I mentioned, Greg Kokel points out, they think that ice cream claims are the same as moral claims. And they don't understand that when we say something is wrong, we're not saying we dislike it. We're not saying we prefer something else. We're saying it's wrong regardless of my preferences. Could it be the case that elective abortion is wrong and that I would go out and teach that it's wrong, but I personally like it? Could that be the case? Could an abortionist walk into this classroom and he spends 5 days a week killing human fetuses, but on weekends, he lectures giving very powerful arguments for why the unborn are human and why abortion is wrong? Could he still be right even though his practice doesn't match what he is saying? And he might just say, you know what, abortion is wrong, but I just like it. Well, we would understand right away that the moral issue can't be reduced to likes and dislikes. Imagine someone saying, for example, well, I personally oppose slavery, but if you want to own one, then that's fine. Nobody would argue that way. Or I personally oppose polluting the environment, but you know what? If you want to drop toxic chemicals in the rivers, that's your choice. I won't impose my views. When the healthcare debate was going on, were we told, those of us who opposed this particular healthcare bill, as I did, and I don't know what you felt about it, but I opposed it, I was told, not that my tastes were a little bit quirky and off, I was told by some people I was flat out immoral because I didn't care about poor people and wanted them to just die so Republicans could get richer. Now notice what's going on here. It's an attempt to say that if you oppose this piece of legislation, you're not merely mistaken, you're flat out evil. You see, they use moral language, but when it comes to abortion, what suddenly happens? It just slips right over into the preference area. Just quicker than you can say Jack Daniels, which is not a good name to drop at Biola. But you get the point. They just change the nature of the debate from moral claims to preference ones. I know my jokes are bad. I'm on East Coast time. I'm jet lagged to the max. I slept 3 hours last night, and there was an incredible party in the parking lot last night that I did not participate in but got to observe. But anyway, Dolores! Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to spend the next session, before I give you a after I give you a stand-up break, we're going to spend the next session making the scientific case for the humanity of the unborn. The pro-life case you're going to learn to make is very simple. In fact, you're going to learn to do it in 3 minutes or less. Here's the case. From the earliest stages of development, the unborn are distinct, living, whole human beings. Moreover, there is no essential difference between the embryo you once were and the adult you are today that would justify killing you at that earlier stage of development. Differences of size, level of development, and environment and degree of dependency are not good reasons for saying you had no right to life then, but you do now. Now, how long did it take me to say that? That's about how quick you have to be when you're on radio and doing media. But you know what? That's our case. And the entirety of my time with you is going to be helping you not only make that case quickly and concisely, but defend it from just about every angle you can get hit at, hopefully.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.